Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Wednesday, April 11th, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and here's what's happening today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin was up 0.84% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,902, a high of 6,974, and a low of 6,794. That's $1 for 14,537 Satoshis. The current Mayer multiple is 0.72, with a Bitcoin price of around $6,800 and a moving average of 9,500. The Mayer multiple has been higher 90% of the time, with an average of 1.57. Starting off today, we had a question yesterday. At the 15:30 mark, you freaked me out. Are all of our Java-based cold storage wallets truly that much at risk? Is your source genuinely reliable? Have you double-checked, triple-checked, and beyond this information? This is FUD City. If this is true, could this put a major dent in Bitcoin's value? Please make sure you get to the bottom of this and share. So I did some more reading about the vulnerabilities in SecureRandom, which were announced on April 6th of 2018. The vulnerabilities are still there, but however, I found on Twitter, thanks to Mustafa Al-Bassam, that the vulnerable random number generator appears to be used by Bitcoin brain wallets. However, bitaddress.org isn't vulnerable because they forked the library before it added a secure PRNG, so they wrote their own. So they do use a different library for bit address. So if you're using a pre-2013 Bitcoin wallet created by Bitcoin address, it's probably questionable. If you created it after 2013, it's probably better off. However, as it notes here, even if they use a different library, this CSPRNG, if the library passes the output through RC4, which generates some biased bits, it could lead to possible private key recovery. So this is still kind of a developing story, but it does seem if you created your addresses with bit address following 2013, you are probably okay. That's still, there's no, if you want to, every once in a while, it's a good idea to refresh your paper wallets. A friend of mine used to keep, I don't know, 5 Bitcoin on his. And then, of course, that became a lot of money. So he started keeping 1 Bitcoin on his. Now he probably has to keep a half or a quarter if you really want to spread them out. But every year he would import them all, make sure they still worked, and then save them on new paper wallets. Or you might want to go with a Ledger or a Trezor. As far as we know, they do have better systems. A lot of the sites that I read when I was researching this were critical of the idea that you would use JavaScript for cryptography anyway. They just thought that it's kind of a web language and it's not as strong as the other languages. Other people said that you can't really ever create a random number with a computer, and that the initial randomness of the internet and the initial encryption things, HTTPS, things like this, created their random numbers through the use of lava lamps. They had a whole wall of about 30 lava lamps, and the lava drifts around in the lamp as it heats up and cools down. And they somehow took pictures of these, made them into shapes, made them into random numbers, whatever, some kind of thing. But randomness is very difficult. This is the same problem that addressed blockchain.info a few years ago, and they actually did have money that was taken. However, it was taken by a white hat hacker, so he did return the money. So that was really impressive. Otherwise, they would have had major losses as well. So story's still developing. But as far as I can tell from the information that I've located through searching the internet, your addresses are probably okay. It's always good to update them, though. And now, Vietnam investigates ICO fraud after 660 million in losses reported. And it reads like every other article that you've ever read about ICO fraud. Both of the initial coin offerings, Pincoin and iFan, had risk-free activity, and Pincoin promised profits of up to 40% monthly through a range of bonus structures that favor early investors over later ones. pyramid scheme. It also used imagery associated with the get-rich-quick subculture, including a Lamborghini. More than 32,000 investors may have been affected, sorry, not infected, that's a later story. But, yeah, Vietnam is mad. 660 million may have been lost because of the schemes. So, enjoy your ICO fraud. Bank of America to stop financing makers of military-style guns. This was a really interesting article, and it may signal a huge change in the way that America and the world does business, or it may just be kind of a public relations reaction to the recent and constantly reoccurring massacres in the United States, all performed with weapons, some of them even military style, like machine guns and AR-15s. Obviously, this is a very political topic, but it does relate to Bitcoin. I've always said one of my reasons for being into Bitcoin is I believe that it could stop all wars. Conversely, I believe that banks lending for people to buy weapons, for people to rebuild after the weapons are used, and for people to buy weapons again is a horrible cycle that needs to be stopped. And I believe that Bitcoin could stop it. It's interesting to see Bank of America in their own way to try to stop that, but, there are still larger banks, they still loan to the United States, they still loan to China, China loans bonds to the US, money is still being generated, weapons are still being created. But if this idea spread, if more banks said, "We're not gonna fund the army, we're not gonna fund," and let's just, we're starting with makers of military style guns. Well, what about everything that's military style? What about everything that the military does? I mean, Raytheon, missile manufacturers, Boeing, airborne weapons, drone companies. Is it okay to fund those because they're not causing massacres in the US? That's another very political statement. But a very interesting story. Interesting to see where this goes. If it's just a response to the mass shootings or if it's a large change. As they say here, we this is a okay. It says reduce. I'm sorry, I read it too quickly. We want to contribute in any way we can to reduce these mass shootings, said the vice chairwoman at Bank of America. Well, what about the wars? What about all the killing in the world? Why would you fund any military style weapons? Interesting story. We'll see how that develops. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm open to you discussing this. I know there are both sides to this story, but it could be a major shift. And this is a bank we're talking about, not just like a person or a NRA person or something like that. 22 European nations form new blockchain partnership. The countries, including the UK, France, Germany, Norway, Spain, and the Netherlands, signed a declaration on Tuesday establishing a new group dubbed the European Blockchain Partnership. They aim to avoid fragmented approaches to the technology. Maybe they should get into Bitcoin. And as they said, per usual, blockchain is a great database is a great opportunity for Europe and member states to rethink their information systems, promote user trust, and the protection of personal data. It's supposed to be public, to help create new business opportunities and establish new areas of leadership benefiting citizens, public services, and companies. The way these governments and corporations and banks continue to love on blockchain and hate on Bitcoin almost makes me think that the success of Bitcoin endangers banks, politicians, governments, and the entire old system, and that they would do anything to slow or stop the success of Bitcoin by focusing on minor things like blockchain. If Bitcoin mania spreads like a disease, Barclays thinks the fever has broken. I know I covered this yesterday, but I just wanted to cover it again because Quartz used such a great image. Look at how Bitcoin as a virus is starting to spread through the mainstream media. And this is just a ridiculous image. They didn't even Photoshop. At least put some Bitcoin heads on top of these people. Give us something. They're acting like this is an actual picture from Bitcoin. Like it says right here, hedging their crypto portfolios. No, no, these are people in, hazmat suits looking like somewhere like maybe Russia or India or something. They can't read these letters. Uh, this is bizarre. This is the mainstream media at absolute desperation. Bitcoin is a virus. This is great. Large retail investors see an opportunity in Bitcoin despite the price decline. And that's what we always say, that you should be greedy when other people are fearful, and fearful when other people are greedy. And this is definitely a time of fear in the price of Bitcoin. However, many are saying that there is institutional demand. Again, we're not talking about one person or one billionaire here. We're talking about banks. We're talking about large scale rich people and companies buying into Bitcoin. Now, maybe they don't believe in it like you do. They're not buying into it because they believe in it. They're probably hedging their bets. They're buying into it just in case it succeeds. What if all of their FUD doesn't work? What if everything that they do to try to slow and stop this, and Apple Pay and whatever it is, what if all that doesn't work and Bitcoin succeeds? The banks cannot allow that to happen unless they have a good amount of it, a good piece of it, and this could be their chance. As Jeremy Gardner, co-founder of the success well, it's successful, but it's never been released yet, but the successful, I guess, because it raised money, blockchain project Augur revealed that investors in over-the-counter markets are seeking multi-billion-dollar bids to invest in the most dominant cryptocurrency in the market. That's Bitcoin. OTC market demand for Bitcoin right now is unlike anything I've ever witnessed. Several ask for multi-million-dollar deals, said Gardner. Bitcoin is eating Quebec, and no one really cares because you have lots of hydropower. A Canadian hydropower operation put out the welcome mat for Bitcoin miners. Shortly thereafter, it was overrun. That's right, all over Quebec, old warehouses are being turned into Bitcoin mines. Previously empty buildings that serve no purpose are now solving problems and creating Bitcoin. Hydroelectric power, which is massive and common in Quebec thanks to their dams, is the ideal solution, a clean, renewable source of energy that can be supplied in massive quantities. The energy it provides to cryptocurrency mining operations is surplus. An extra 100 terawatts of low impact energy the utility has the capacity to generate over the next decade. Additionally, they could build more dams, build more turbines, have more hydropowers. There's a possible problem in the winter, as uh, Mark Puyot, who's been on the Bitcoin on the World Crypto Network here, he says in Quebec, residential customers heat their homes with electricity. In consequence, the demand can be very high when the temperature is below 20 for a few days. We are now analyzing the effect of the blockchain on our winter peak. One of the solutions could be to oblige blockchain companies to suspend the activity during the winter. However, as the article says, in an industry where every day can be worth tens of thousands of dollars or more, it remains to be seen whether outside miners would be amenable to that kind of solution. The other option is to build more dams, more hydropower, more turbines. Have your industry grow, have your town and city grow. Welcome the Bitcoin miners. I know you will. History repeating why Bitcoin's price could rise in quarter two. That's right, quarter one was down, but quarter two is just getting started. The above chart, the above chart prices as per Bitfinex shows for the third straight week the ascending 50-week moving average is capping the downside in Bitcoin. This, coupled with the basing pattern around 6,500 as seen on the daily chart, indicates that Bitcoin could soon test resistance lined up around $7,500. A convincing move above 7,500 could yield a rally to the descending, bear biased 10-week moving average, currently located at 8,605. However, in the larger scheme of things, only a close above 11,700 would signal a bearish to bullish trend change. At least now we know what we want. Media hype falsely reports Bitcoin as the greatest bubble in history. Media coverage this week of the alleged Bitcoin bubble and whether or not it is popping has resulted in some inaccurate claims about the size of the bubble, as well as the same old comparisons of Bitcoin's rise to that of Dutch tulips and gold. And I'm just going to skip to the commentary section where reminding you how critical people were of Amazon, calling it Amazon.bomb, saying that Walmart will easily crush Amazon, saying that Amazon fears diapers and diapers.com, which they bought and then turned into nothing, and that Amazon Prime was too good to be true after all. Everyone is underestimating Walmart's ability to crush Amazon. All wrong. All of these articles, all of the theory on Amazon, all wrong. They did it better. They're a better retail site than any retail site I've ever used, and they keep doing it better. It's terrifying how good Amazon is. As Andy Hoffman says, for those calling Bitcoin a bubble, is $100 billion really a bubble like valuation for the most transformative financial invention in history? I mean, a dying tech dinosaur like IBM is 140 billion, and an anachronistic dead man walking like AT&T is 230 billion. I don't know. AT&T has the wireless, they have the cable now. They've bought some media companies. They're a pretty complex company. They're not the American telephone and telegraph of old days. But he's right about IBM servers are kind of out, although there's still a back end requirement for them. That's interesting. There's something interesting there. And finally, of course, the classic graphic that Bitcoin is not the bubble, it's the pin. And I like this one because this turns the whole argument on its head. And it says to the mainstream people that maybe you're in a bubble. Maybe you're the one growing out of control. And as we see bad news in the mainstream media, bad news in the markets, usually good news for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's seen as a hedge against these old systems. So if you were an old person and you don't understand anything and you don't understand Bitcoin, you would never be able to see this possibility of Bitcoin being the pin. You would obviously see it as a bubble, not realizing you're in a bubble. And Bittrex. Finally, the wait is over. New users can once again register on the Bittrex exchange. Want to sign up? Visit bittrex.com and don't forget to check out our enhanced website. That means they changed everything while you're registering for a Bittrex account. Then, an hour later, sorry for the inconvenience. Due to an overwhelming response from new users, registration is temporarily paused. We're working to make the necessary tweaks and reopen signups again shortly. Maybe you shouldn't have changed the interface. Maybe the new interface is weighing heavily on your servers. Maybe you should have just got more servers, more ID verification, and reopened new users so that we can have some new users trading Bitcoin. Bad move, Bittrex. You got to do the new update with the site and the new servers at the same time. You got to have Amazon Web Services or whatever it is. You have to be able to get more servers. And they say, thank you for your patience as we work to reopen signups for new users. We're getting closer to a fix and we'll resume new customer registrations as soon as possible. And this one, 3:53 p.m. There's been no follow-up there. There's been no follow-up on the Bittrex Twitter. So new user signups are currently not open. So the whole relaunch, the whole new web page, all that, not open. This is just another example that there is money out there. There are people that want to buy Bitcoin. They want to buy it at Robinhood. They want to buy it at Bittrex. They want to trade it, whatever they want to do. They want to be involved, and they can't because they can't create an account. They can't get verified. There's too many people in the verification queue. Too many people are interested in Bitcoin. And this is shown again as no doubt, I'm sure Bittrex, they must have bought new servers. They must have Amazon Web Service. But still, whatever is going wrong has crashed their system because of over interest. People are so interested in Bitcoin, they're crashing brand new servers. And more outages. Ledger reported that following an outage, they're working on bringing back their bitch infrastructure. You can get real-time updates of the operations at status.ledger.fr. And once again, I did have someone put a comment on the Mad Bitcoins channel asking me about the BCH problem at Ledger. He had sent some BCH to his account. He was freaking out. He wanted help. He wanted technical support. So there is an issue presumably still happening. I checked the Ledger Twitter. There's no update there with the BCH on the Ledger wallet. Just FYI. It'll probably be worked out. Your money's probably going to be fine. Not a guarantee, but I would just chill out a little, give it a couple days. And it's Happy National Siblings Day. Look, there's Mark Zuckerberg and there's Data, separated at birth, perhaps. And this fits well into the old Mark Zuckerberg is an AI joke, which I think is one of the funniest memes that I've seen. Maybe it's even viral and infecting people because someone photoshopped Mark Zuckerberg as Data from Star Trek, and it's incredible. And it really is. I like the way down here it says, Mr. Data Accumulator. Nice. And then this lady says, Data had more heart. True. And the EFF asks, why doesn't Facebook offer a paid version without ads? Because Facebook doesn't want to. Its goal as a company is not to connect you to your friends. It's to show you ads while making you believe that it's doing you a favor because the ads are targeted. We even saw some of this in the congressional hearing yesterday when he was talking about the targeted ads, and one of the senators quipped at him to deliver a better advertising experience, whatever that means. And Zuckerberg was very big about defending this and saying, oh, how bad Facebook would be if the ads didn't associate with you, if they were random ads instead of targeted ads. And I don't think the users would care. I think that Facebook would care because they'd make less money. And again, the solution to this is just like the solution to net neutrality in the ISPs, encrypt everything. Facebook should have no access to your data. Facebook should hold your encrypted data. Then you could share a lighter version of your encrypted key with your friends, or perhaps friends of friends even, and they could have access to the encrypted data. Yes, someone could still get into your network and sniff your network, downloading the data that way, but we wouldn't have to trust Facebook as a central repository of all of our data, which, as we all know, the more data that you gather in one place, the more likely you are to be hacked or government influence or inside jobs, anything. Data itself is both power, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's an asset and it's a liability. And for a company like Facebook, it's starting to become a bigger liability than an asset. But we'll see if they realize that. Mark Zuckerberg equivocates when asked about tracking logged out users. And I noticed this yesterday during the hearing as well. He did not want to explain to you how the advertising cookies work. There's probably one on this page. But companies like Mashable and The Guardian basically have to put these Facebook tokens into their page so that they can get the Facebook tracking information. Here's one right here. It says like. See how it just updated to 7.2 million? It's directly connected to Facebook right there. There's a very good chance that they know I'm looking at this web page, even if I logged out of Facebook. Zuckerberg's answer was something like, oh, Instagram will track you and Facebook will track you, so it knows when you're using Instagram, so it can provide you with a good experience. But he knew exactly what they were talking about, even as they didn't have the technical language to understand it or the time to follow up on it, and he dodged it beautifully. Facebook does not want you to know that they know everywhere you go on the internet, because they got everyone to put these little tracking cookies in. And maybe it's a more complicated solution than that, but you get what I'm saying here. Facebook is very, very interested in you. And you should wonder why. And we had a great comment here from Wix Freeman. He said, Zuckerberg is now a slave. I can honestly say that even with his billions, I would not want to trade places with him. Freedom is priceless, and entertainment is cheaper than ever. I thought this was a really good comment. This guy made a lot of good points really quickly. Entertainment is really cheap. Freedom is priceless. Zuckerberg could be just an average programmer somewhere living a nice life, not having to appear before Congress. My personal opinion is that Zuckerberg birthed Facebook, that he has an ownership feeling about it, even though the size of it is so much bigger than his dorm room now. And most other companies, even Google, would bring in a professional person, a CEO who runs other companies, business school, all that kind of background, to replace essentially a college dropout in Zuckerberg. But remember, he birthed it, he owned it, it's his baby. He can't give it up. Maybe he'll be forced to give it up. Maybe he'll be ripped from it. It's curious to see in the future what happens. I got some great comments as I asked people to discuss this. Awi Bitcoin said, Zuck has nothing that he doesn't want. Wix Freeman agreed. He said, I'm in about hour 3 of this, and I applaud him for not laughing at some of these questions. I responded saying, he's America's most patient IT guy. Oh, we had a great meme from PJ Brunette here. Don't blame it on Zuckerberg. Blame it on the apps. Yeah, yeah. And that's a reference to Milli Vanilli, who famously lip synced their song, Blame It on the Rain. And Jeffrey Gotts weighed in. He said, I think all of the super wealthy become slaves to other men more powerful to them. And in many cases, the demons that influence them. A lot you read about rich people and a lot about revenge and blackmail and dirty things that they're doing behind doors. No one really knows, though. He says, is Facebook really such an interesting problem? Not in my opinion. I was more disappointed by the senator's weak questions. He weaseled his way out of everything, answering in general every time. Did he reveal anything new? I'm not sure that he did. I do agree that he dodged well. I think what's new here is that Congress has taken such an interest in Facebook and social networking and the power that they obviously have. Now, previously, that power was focused on getting money and expanding the platform, making the numbers better. But now they're starting to see how that power could be used by a foreign government or by a political candidate or by a company. And they're starting to realize that that power might be too much to have in an basically unregulated company. One of the ideas that seemed to be floated yesterday, they didn't say it officially, but they were kind of walking around it, is if we focus on you, Facebook, if we write specific regulations about you, we're essentially dooming your competitors, which you have none of, because your competitors would then have to survive these regulations right out of the gate. When Zuckerberg laughed about having no compliance officers in his dorm room, that's the same kind of thing where if you were starting the new Facebook in your dorm room and Congress passes all these laws, you would need a compliance officer in your dorm room. So it would essentially cement Facebook as a monopoly, making it kind of almost a nationalized social network because of its new protections in these new laws. Maybe it would be nationalized. Maybe it would be like Major League Baseball, a protected in a single social network. It's interesting to think about the problems, and it's interesting to think about the solutions. I don't think there's any perfect solution. I think there are definitely a lot of problems. And previously, I was watching him at the house, and I'll probably go back to that after this show. Really enjoyed Walter Kern's comment here. This is really popular, 7,400 retweets. Twitter sells conflict. Instagram sells envy. Facebook sells you. And Bitcoin was mentioned in a children's activity book. Look at this right here. Cell phone users in Kenya can buy and sell prepaid minutes to each other. They are used as currency because there aren't many banks in the Kenyan countryside. And it's talking about different ways to use money. It says foreign coins are outlawed in 1857. And PayPal lets people shop online in 1999. And then here it is down below, 2009, Bitcoin, a type of digital money, is introduced. So very cool to see Bitcoin in a children's book and a mainstream children's book, not just a children's book about Bitcoin. And enjoyed this comic strip, wanted to share it with you. After the ICO, our revolutionary platform will leverage the blockchain to, did somebody say blockchain? It's a distributed ledger it's a slow database. And this is kind of the argument we seem to be having with a lot of the mainstream media and mainstream politics and mainstream banks and a lot of mainstream things. And yeah, it would be great if you use blockchains. But the problem is if you don't have a token of value, if you don't have miners, if it's not a public blockchain, you're just recreating the whole intranet argument again. You're creating private versions of things. The whole point of the blockchain is that it's public and it's publicly verified. I can tell how much money you have. I can also prove how much money you have, and I can prove that you sent it to me. And I don't need to trust anyone to do this. When you take away the miners, when you take away the token of value, you take away the trust. You basically have untrustworthy blockchains, no trust machines. It doesn't help anything. Database is the same. Database is the same. And a little Bitcoin history. 5 years ago today was the $266 peak of the spring of 2013 in Bitcoin, which was around 2000%. Mt. Gox then halted trading for a cool down period. The price swung to $50 briefly after reopening. And that's 81% drop in less than 2 days. And I was just starting to get really interested in Bitcoin around this time. And I'm gonna talk about it more in the next couple of days, but this is coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the Mad Bitcoin show. So check that out if you haven't. A lot of good old videos on there. I'm thinking about doing some reaction videos, doing some today in Mad Bitcoin's history videos, where I go back and I'll watch the video and then we can talk about it. And it's pretty fun to see the Bitcoin price at like $100 or $200, $300. it's, it's only 5 years ago. It's pretty amazing. And a great quote from InfoSec Taylor Swift, who's also celebrating her 4th anniversary on Twitter just recently, as she or he says, I grew up in a time when our mistakes were left in the past, when a username wasn't an email address, it was a passport to find yourself. Interesting to think about because right now I can't stand it when they don't use emails as usernames because usernames are harder to remember and they have a limited namespace, whereas a email is pretty unique to identify you. But she is talking about a different time on the internet when it was more wild and free, more full of lulls and random attacks and trolling, and everyone was a troll back then. It's kind of like Bitcoin now, where everyone is a criminal or everyone is infected with the Bitcoin virus. Maybe you were infected with the internet in the past. And look, you're still here. Maybe you were infected by Netscape or Mosaic or Firefox or Internet Explorer. And look, you've changed. Maybe you use Chrome or Brave now, but you're still infected. You're still here. You're stuck on the internet. Anyway, it looked like we had a couple more people in the chat today. I thought that was really cool. I told you yesterday that it's really cool if you guys could subscribe. We only need a few more subscribers to break 60,000 subscribers, which would be really cool. And a lot of you turned on the notification bell. So YouTube gave you an email or maybe even one of these bells up here when the show started. That's a great way to find out when the show goes on. And we also have other new shows here on the World Crypto Network almost every day. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Mad Bitcoins and at World Crypto Network. I always put the links up there if you want to know when the show starts. And that's about it for this episode of Today in Bitcoin. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe down below. If you've got some extra Bitcoin, you could donate them right here. Or if you like the show, you could donate $5, $10. I hear the fees are very low again. There's no more problem. You can send smaller amounts. And yesterday we did get a donation. We got a donation of 0.00146 Bitcoin. Thank you so much. Our 81st donation on this account. Very cool. And that was on April 10th. So very cool to have that. And 81 patrons support us at patreon.com/madbitcoins. We're raising more than $430 a month to keep this show going. It's very cool. And that's about it for this episode of Today in Bitcoin. No idea how long I went on today. Let's see if I can check the chat really quick, see how it's going. He says, do the drug dealers own Bitcoin? Of course not. Yeah, they certainly don't own the platform or the other thing. They might own some Bitcoin. Everybody's talking about the Zuckerberg hearings. I'm pretty sure we all sat there and watched it yesterday, and we're going to go back to watching it today. It's a very fascinating thing. Obviously, Zuckerberg, a billionaire, very different person than all of us, but he still seems like a computer geek. He still seems like one of us up there defending his creation and his ideas against Congress. It's a fascinating story that's going on the Facebook thing. They like videos of Zuckerberg trying to drink water. Yeah, those are good. I also saw a great one today where it had a smile on a slider, and they're like, "Smile on, smile off." Brain wallets don't use random numbers. That's a good point, but I would worry about brain wallets. I heard some people trying to pattern them after sentences and books, things like this. Remember, books are like dictionaries. If you can do a dictionary attack, you can do a book attack. So any phrase that's in a book, any popular phrase could be attacked. Brain wallets, if it's easy enough for you to memorize, it's probably easy enough for it to be attacked. So I would be careful there. Maybe if you put some numbers in, maybe that makes a difference. Brain wallets are complicated things. Please describe a military style gun. Anything that fires quickly, designed to kill multiple people, could be used to kill hundreds. Or you could modify a gun with a bump stock, but this is a whole complicated issue. We can talk more about that. But I do think that we should engage and we should talk about this, even if we disagree. I respect your right to disagree. They say we should have some balance in our gun laws. Why would a bank care about guns? That's a pretty good question. I think it's mainly a PR issue. I think they mainly are upset about the massacres, and at a certain level, banks are made up of humans, and those humans probably feel bad about these massacres, and they want to do something, and they want to help people, and that this is their idea to do something and help people. If you want to be cynical, it's a public relations move. Either way, I think it's a combination of those things. Oh, worried about military style knives and knives killing people and all that. So it's good to have this discussion. Let's see. The guy in the background in the infection item was wearing a lovely cardigan. That's great. I'll have to go back and look at that one. Let's see. I think I still have. Oh, I have too many open, but yeah, that's funny. I'll check that out. OTC trades in high demand. And that's the beauty of the OTC or over the counter trades is that we don't know how many trades they're doing because it doesn't affect the normal markets. So let's see. We've got a question from Pedro Sanchez. What do you think about Mark's hearing about Facebook's latest privacy issue and the way Congress is trying to impose trust on an environment, the web, that should be trustless? Well, a lot of this has to do with the way Facebook was created and what Facebook does. For a basic idea here, let's just say Facebook is an advertising platform. Their goal is for you to put in information and your friends to share information so that they can increase the number of ads that they can sell and the prices they can sell them at. So, as it's an advertising environment, it is about linking people together, as he keeps saying, but it's doing that for the advertising. So, if you wanted to have a different model, you would have to get rid of the advertising. One way is for people to pay for Facebook, but we know that this won't really catch on at a critical mass, and there'll always be some people, the laggards, who won't pay for Facebook. The reason that Facebook had such success, in my opinion, is its critical mass. I didn't like Facebook. I didn't have an account for a long time, and I fought it. But eventually, I realized that all of my friends were on there. Many of them had probably given up their address book, so they knew that I was their friend and someone else's friend. They could make connections based upon that, and that I was actually not benefiting from this because I wasn't seeing all my friends' photos and I wasn't connected with my friends and presumably losing track of relatives and things like that. So, because of those reasons, when a friend of mine went on a Europe trip, I wanted to see his photos. His photos were only going to be on and stuck in it since then. Alternatives to Facebook, as an internet person, I think in the beginning that this idea of social networking needs to be broken down back to a protocol. I think that if many companies could produce clients that would then publish to a social network that would then be encrypted, it could be a really cool thing and a really cool protocol. I did see a project like that yesterday. Devin Reed from Alexandria tweeted it to me. I just remembered the name. Aha. It's called Solid. And Tim Berners-Lee, who helped invent the internet, basically Mosaic, the World Wide Web, is working on it now. And I read the advertising boilerplate, and it sounds like what I'm describing, taking data back to a protocol level. The problem with this is that a project like this may move very slowly. It may take them 5 years to catch up with Facebook 10 years ago. And that's not how you beat Facebook in a head to head fight. You have to have a better product with better technology and better privacy that works simply for the users, that they don't know how it works behind the scenes because they don't care. So it'd be very difficult to combine all of those together without the advertising money that Facebook has. Could Mark Zuckerberg suddenly wake up and have the idea that he should encrypt all of the information, screw over all of the advertisers, and truly serve the users? Maybe. He wouldn't be a he's a stock, right? Facebook's a stock, it's a publicly traded company. It would be going against the stockholders because there might be less money in it, but it is entirely possible that he could suddenly wake up with a humanitarian vision and a dream, and he could say, "Facebook has X number of money right now, we can do this for 10 years, we can run the servers for 10 years, whatever it is, and we can try this out as a plan." That seems possible. I don't know, I guess I have rose-colored glasses there. Uh, I want to believe that that's possible because that's one of the only ways that I could see the large amount of money meeting the protocol and the encryption and the idea that we need here. I did mention Apple and Tim Cook a couple of days ago did a town hall on MSNBC. I didn't get to see it, but I saw the clips and things. And it sounded like basically what Apple has done, it has already taken this approach. Apple has put all of their users' data in various encrypted silos that Apple doesn't have access to, and Apple is actually not looking at your data. I think that's a better way to go. I don't know if it's going to win long term though, because Facebook has the flashy interface and it's out in front and it's the leader. So, but yeah, I think this Facebook privacy issue is really interesting. I'm enjoying the hearings. I'm enjoying the conversation that we've been having on Twitter, and we can continue it in the comments below. And I really like when we talk about these ideas. So, any gurus at WCN buying Lisk? I don't know. I'm not that much into the altcoins, but it looks cool. I met that guy once. He's a cool guy. Uh, the Zuckerberg testimony was epic. Hope you watched it. I'm probably going to get back to it now. Uh, your friends can still share your data. Agreed. This is one of the problems with Facebook. I recently did that check to see if any of my friends had given me over to Cambridge Analytica. I was very surprised to find out that they hadn't. So win one for my friends on that one. Additionally, there were problems even today at the House hearing. Zuckerberg was talking about how people are essentially scraping Facebook. Log into that page, scrape it. Log into that page, scrape it. Search for something, scrape it. And that's a very good way to get all of Facebook's data. And no one, he doesn't even know. These scraping attacks could have come from multiple directions and multiple sources, and then they could combine all the data on the other end. They've also been talking about the Obama administration or the Obama campaign and how they were able to use Facebook, and they might have done some of these scraping operations. They might have been very similar to Cambridge Analytica. And again, I'm against both of these. Liberal or progressive, our data should be protected. So they say you should use DuckDuckGo and Brave. It's so hard to get away from Google. I know I should probably use Proton Mail too. It's tough. The Winklevi birthed it. I saw some fun graphics yesterday celebrating the Winklevi that like, ha ha ha, we don't have to do this Facebook thing. That was funny. Um, play Milli Vanilli music, please. I do think I remember Blame It on the Rain. I also remember Weird Al did a parody of it. I think it was like a plumbing song. Kraft is owned by an oligarch. Dun dun dun. Yeah, Kraft's probably not that good. Heinz Ketchup is who. John Kerry's wife is Heinz Ketchup heir, I think. Yeah, there it is. Heinz, not Kraft. Oh, ding! I had that one. I should be a voice artist. Oh, that'd be nice. It's nice when you say that. But I just have a nice microphone. And I try to talk good. I think we're about out of comments and chat. Apparently, there's an image of Tone Vase as Spock on Twitter. That does sound great. I'm going to check that out later. But thanks so much for hanging out. Had a good time. Going to go back to the Zuck hearings. Maybe they gave him another 5-minute break to drink water and change the oil on the robot. But until next time, bye bye.